The woman woke up in the middle of the night to a blood-curdling scream. At first, she thought it was just a nightmare, but then the screams outside her window woke her up. What had happened? Why were people screaming in the middle of the night? Could it be that her nightmares were becoming a reality? And would she survive the night? Sarah never thought much of her dreams. In fact, she had almost forgotten how it felt to have one until recently. For the past few weeks, Sarah had been having the same dream over and over again. She couldn't shake off the feeling that it was trying to tell her something. Her friends had joked that she should stop watching horror movies, but deep down, Sarah knew it wasn't the films that were haunting her. Something else was at play here, something she couldn't quite put her finger on. She just hoped that whatever it was would go away soon, because the constant interruptions to her sleep were starting to take their toll on her. One night, Sarah was awoken in the middle of the night by a blood-curdling scream coming from outside. She sat up in bed, listening intently. The scream echoed through the night, making the windows in her bedroom rattle. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. That was no ordinary scream. It was filled with terror and despair. For a moment, there was silence, and another scream, closer this time. As if whatever had made the first sound was now approaching her house. Sarah's mind raced. What was out there? Who could be making those kinds of noises in the middle of the night? She tried to convince herself that it was just a drunk person stumbling around the neighborhood, or maybe an animal. But deep down, she knew that wasn't true. There was something sinister out there, something that sent shivers down her spine. Suddenly, the power went out, plunging her room into darkness. Sarah gasped, her heart pounding in her chest. The silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of her own ragged breathing. She fumbled for her phone, its faint light illuminating the wild look on her face. She had never been so scared in her life. Then she heard it again, a scraping sound at her window. Sarah screamed, falling backwards onto her bed. The sound continued, growing louder until it was right outside her window. Whatever was out there was trying to get in. She pressed her back against the wall, trying to make herself as small as possible. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered a prayer, begging for whatever was out there to go away. Just when she thought it couldn't get any worse, the window beside her bed shattered. Glass fell around her like a hailstorm as something dark and menacing began clawing its way inside. Sarah screamed, scrambling backwards. But there was nowhere left for her to go. The creature was upon her, its eyes glowing red in the darkness. She squeezed her eyes shut, waiting for the worst. But instead of the pain she had expected, she heard a guttural voice saying, "Run." Sarah opened her eyes to see a man standing over her, his clothes torn and bloodied. He looked wild-eyed and desperate. "Run," he said again, his voice hoarse. "You have to run." Before Sarah could even ask him a question, the man lunged towards the window, his gaze fixed on something outside. "They're coming back," he whispered, his voice filled with dread. "The dead are rising, and you need to get out of here if you want to survive." Before Sarah could respond, the man was gone, disappearing into the darkness as quickly as he had come. Left alone in the shattered silence of her room, Sarah felt a surge of panic rise within her. She had no idea what was happening, but she knew she had to get out of there. Grabbing her phone, she ran to the window, pushing aside the glass shards to peer out into the darkness. That's when she saw them. In the pale moonlight, Sarah saw a group of figures shambling towards her house, their bodies decaying and their eyes glowing an eerie red. They were the same creatures from her dreams, the ones she had been running from. But now they were real, and they were coming for her. Sarah stumbled back from the window, her heart pounding in her chest. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. Were these really zombies? Had they risen from their graves to feast on human flesh? As if to confirm her fears, one of the zombies reached out a rotting hand, scratching at the window. Its fingernails were long and sharp, like hooks. Its skin was gray and peeling, revealing the bone beneath. Sarah screamed, scrambling away from the window. She had to get out of there, but where could she go? She was trapped. Frantically, she searched for another way out of her room, her eyes landing on the balcony door. Maybe she could escape through there. But as she made her way across the room, the scratching at the window grew louder. The zombies were getting closer. With a surge of adrenaline, Sarah flung open the balcony door and stepped out onto the narrow ledge. She had no choice now. She had to trust that her balcony was sturdy enough to hold her weight and that the creatures wouldn't find another way in. Taking a deep breath, Sarah closed her eyes and jumped onto the grass below. She landed awkwardly, scraping her palms on the hard ground. Pain shot through her, but she ignored it, scrambling to her feet and running as fast as she could. Behind her, she heard the sound of crashing glass and the guttural moans of the zombies as they broke into her apartment. They were after her, and she had to get away. As she ran, Sarah realized that she didn't know the city as well as she thought she did. Every street looked the same in the darkness, every alley a potential hiding place for more of those creatures. She could hear their heavy footsteps pounding the pavement behind her, getting closer with every step. Fear propelled her forward, urging her to run faster, to find somewhere, anywhere to hide. Suddenly, she remembered an old abandoned warehouse she had seen earlier. Maybe she could hide in there, wait until the sun came up and those things went back to wherever they came from. With renewed determination, Sarah veered off course, heading towards the warehouse, its dark silhouette looming in the distance. As she approached, she could hear the sound of the zombies growing fainter, their relentless pursuit seemingly endless. When Sarah reached the warehouse, she hesitated for a moment, her heart pounding in her chest. But the alternative was unthinkable, letting those creatures catch her, and who knows what would happen next. Taking a deep breath, she pushed open the creaky door and stepped inside. Inside the warehouse, Sarah found solace in the darkness. It wasn't much, but it was a place to hide, a place where she could catch her breath and try to figure out what her next move should be. She had managed to shake off the pursuing zombies, but she knew they wouldn't give up easily. She was in a race against time, a battle for survival against creatures she didn't understand and a situation she couldn't comprehend. Sarah knew she couldn't stay in the warehouse forever. She needed a plan, a way to fight back, a way to protect herself from the relentless dead that were stalking her every move. But in the suffocating darkness of the abandoned building, all she could do was wait and hope for the dawn. Just when Sarah thought it couldn't get any worse, the familiar scratching sound echoed from outside the warehouse. The zombies had found her. Now she was trapped in an abandoned warehouse with no way out and the creatures of her nightmares closing in. How would she escape their grasp? Would she be able to survive the night? Or would the darkness claim her as its own? In the depths of her despair, Sarah remembered the man who had warned her, the one who had spoken of a bigger threat lurking in the shadows. Could he be right? Were these zombies just the beginning of something more sinister? As the first rays of sunlight began to peek through the cracks in the boarded-up windows, Sarah felt a surge of hope. Maybe the man from earlier would show up. Maybe he had a plan. Maybe he would help her survive this nightmare. She waited, clutching her phone tightly in her hands, willing the sun to rise faster. But as the minutes ticked by and the zombies continued their relentless assault on the building, Sarah knew she couldn't wait any longer. She had to take action. She had to confront the darkness head-on and face the horrors that awaited her. With a newfound sense of determination, she decided to fight back. What would Sarah do to defend herself against the rising dead? Would she be able to survive the night and uncover the secrets of the town's horrifying transformation? Stay tuned to find out in Part 2. Don't miss the next chapter of this gripping tale. Click the link on screen now to continue the adventure.